"Call the police, he's trespassing." That's what she screamed the moment I pushed open the door to my father's cabin. My father's cabin, my inheritance. And somehow, in that instant, I was cast as the criminal. I stood frozen, hearing my heart pound, staring at this woman I'd never seen in my life, watching her wave her arms like she had authority over everything my dad left behind. I hadn't set foot in that place for 18 months. Losing my dad broke something in me, and I just couldn't face it. But I finally worked up the courage to return, only to walk into a nightmare I couldn't have invented if I tried. 20 women, dressed in flowing robes, sat cross-legged in the living room, humming over my dad's fishing rods like they were holy relics. Candles flickered against the log walls. My father's tackle box lay open in the center like some kind of shrine, and this woman, Nicole Wright, was acting as if she owned it all. She glared at me, called for security, and actually shouted that my masculine energy was disrupting her sacred ceremony. I wanted to laugh, but the shock hit so hard I almost believed I'd wandered into the wrong house. It wasn't the wrong house, it was mine. But she had guards, guys with earpieces and radios blocking the exit's clipboards at the door with guest lists, catering trucks outside. This wasn't a meditation circle. This was a business. A whole damn industry built on my grief. And Nicole played her role like a seasoned CEO. When I demanded answers, she threw out a fake county ordinance number claiming my absence had triggered community healing rights. She even had binders with seals and signatures that looked official enough to fool a judge. My chest tightened. Was it possible? Did I really abandon the place long enough for some bizarre law to hand it over to strangers? For one split second, I doubted myself. I left that day shaken to the core. Everyone in the community seemed to believe her story that my dad had wanted his cabin to serve as a wellness retreat. Neighbors who used to wave at me now looked at me like I was some selfish heir standing in the way of enlightenment. And Nicole. She thrived on that narrative. She told anyone who'd listen that I'd abandoned my spiritual duty. For a while, I actually wondered if maybe she was right. I'd left the cabin untouched, locked up with dust covering my dad's belongings. Was I selfish? Did I forfeit my rights? The weight of grief and guilt pressed on me so hard I thought about just walking away, letting her keep it. My father was gone, and fighting felt impossible. Then Tom Bradley stopped me. He's a retired cop, old friend of my dad's. He pulled me aside one evening, his jaw set, and said, "Owen, you need to hear what's been happening while you were gone." He told me Nicole had spent the last year building her empire slowly, carefully, convincing neighbors, recruiting followers, planting stories. She wasn't some kooky crystal lady. She was strategic, calculated, dangerous. That was the punch I needed. I turned to what I knew best, tech. I went home, sat down with my laptop, and started digging. What I found turned my stomach. Nicole had a polished website called Mountain Serenity Retreats plastered with photos of my dad's gear labeled as ancestral artifacts. She was charging thousands per person, advertising bloodline healing intensives for $25,000 a weekend. She even had events booked 6 months out across multiple states. This wasn't local. This was an organized fraud machine. And she'd chosen my father's memory as her crown jewel. My lawyer, Jake Morrison, jumped in too. Within days, he discovered Commissioner Clark Williams, the guy approving all Nicole's permits, was drowning in gambling debt. Guess who bailed him out? Nicole. She owned him, and through him she owned the county. Suddenly, it all made sense: the official documents, the fake ordinances, the police reports she filed painting me as unstable. The system had been weaponized against me. I was furious. But more than that, I was done being the victim. I created a fake profile, David Miller, a curious seeker, and slipped into Nicole's booking system. I hacked her files, traced payments, built a digital map of her scam. That's when I saw it, an upcoming celebrity retreat featuring Brooke Sterling, an influencer with 50,000 followers. Nicole planned to use my cabin, my father's memory, for a viral transformation weekend that would cement her status as a spiritual leader. That was my shot. But Nicole hit back first. Early one morning, Jake called, his voice urgent. "She filed a restraining order against you. Hearings in 2 hours." I almost dropped the phone. How the hell could she ban me from my own property? Yet she walked into court like she'd rehearsed it all. She had police reports, staged photos, fake evaluations. She painted me as an unstable son lashing out because I couldn't handle my grief. Judge Harrison, who usually handled traffic tickets, looked overwhelmed but granted her temporary control. For the first time, I thought I'd lost everything. That night, staring at the restraining order in my hands, I felt hollow. Every move I made, she'd already anticipated. Every weakness she'd already exploited. Part of me wanted to disappear to let her win. But then I thought about my dad, about the tackle box she'd desecrated, about the way she twisted his memory into a money-making scheme. That's when I promised myself I wasn't walking away. So I broke the order. I disguised myself as a cameraman on Brooke Sterling's crew. With borrowed gear and fake credentials, I slipped inside the cabin for Nicole's grand event. And, God, she put on a show. Lights catering multiple cameras capturing every fake tear as she claimed to channel my father's spirit. I clenched my fists, standing feet away from her, listening to her sell lies about the man who raised me. Then came the break. Nicole leaned toward a camera operator and whispered, "Dead people make perfect partners. They never complain. Their families are too grief-stricken to fight back." She laughed. She actually laughed. And I recorded every word. When I showed Brooke Sterling the clip, she didn't react how I expected. She didn't panic, she calculated. She realized exposing Nicole would make better content than promoting her. Within minutes, she went live to her entire audience. "Guys, I just discovered I'm being scammed by a fake healer who's using a dead man's belongings without family permission." The comments exploded. Thousands of people watched Nicole spiral in real time, shouting for my arrest, trying to cling to her victim act, but the facade crumbled. Tom spotted Crystal, the supposed recovering addict, fumbling with an encrypted radio during the chaos. Her cover was blown, her true identity as Nicole's sister revealed. The dominoes fell fast after that. State investigators launched probes. Williams turned on Nicole to save himself, and Crystal flipped for a lighter sentence. Suddenly, Nicole's empire of lies was exposed as a multi-state criminal network worth millions. I'll never forget watching her dragged out of the cabin, still shouting about community healing rights, as if repeating the lie could make it true. In that moment, the woman who stole my father's memory, who turned my grief into her business, finally lost the power she thought she owned. And that's where it ended. Nicole Wright, Dr. Santos convicted, sentenced, stripped of everything. My cabin was mine again, though scarred, though heavy with memories of what she'd done. If there's one thing I learned through it all, it's this: grief makes you vulnerable, but it also makes you stronger if you choose to fight back.